This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Shake them ropes, Jeff Hawkins, Chris Novembrino. Late into the weekend, but better late than never. Talking some graps from the past week. I thought most of the wrestling shows were quite good, but we're going to get into it a little bit. How's your weekend been?
You know what? I decided yesterday that I was going to try to watch the movie Independence Day. No particular reason. Do you know how long this movie is?
It's about as long as a real alien invasion.
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 20-something friggin' minutes. I thought for sure that this was like a 90-minute film, maybe 100 minutes. I was not planning on looking at the runtime being over 2 hours. And it does not earn its over 2 hours. I know we all enjoy the president's speech. This is our Independence Day. But, like, there is rarely a reason for any movie to be over 2 hours. And if they are going to be over 2 hours, they need to earn it.
I've actually never seen it.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess we know who likes this country more on this show. Jeez.
I liked Mars Attacks, and I was fine with it. I'm not a big the team name Dean Devlin Roman Emmerich fan. Or Roland Emmerich. I'm just not a fan of their movies. Never have been. I find them vapid and stupid, to be honest with you. And
it is the quintessential 90s bloated script. How dare you, sir?
It's cookie cutter stuff, and it's just not deep, and it's just kind of insulting. It really is. I mean, I've seen enough highlights where I can reference it pretty much. But, you know, and
no, it fails on a lot of levels. Like, there's no real depth to what the alien invasion is about. It's just entirely about humanity. Obviously, all the tech stuff doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, there's a lot of issues with the actual execution of it. As someone who has now become I'm a more discerning sci-fi fan these days, so now I'm watching these type of movies, and like, there's certain things that I like about it. Like, I like the build-up-y sort of stuff, but they also rushed the build-up in that movie too. Like, the spaceship has arrived really friggin' early in the movie.
Yeah, it's high budget Corman to me, and I don't mind low budget Corman, like Battle Beyond the Stars. It's fantastic. I don't care what anybody says. It's a bad movie, but it's a fantastic bad movie. It's basically the Magnificent Seven Samurai in space with Richard Thomas from the Waltons, and George Papard, and who's another Sybil Danning, fixture of Skinamax late at night. So it's, I enjoy that more than I did anything having to do with Independence Day. I spent my July 4th. I watched a few Great American Bash matches. I'm still in that mind where it was a big deal growing up, where the Great American Bash on tour, if I had a stadium near me, I'd be able to drive down there, but there wasn't one, alas. But I'll watch the first minute of Dick Slater and Buzz Sawyer versus the Andersons, and I'll be happy about it. And, I'll go with that. Speaking of the Great American Bash, NXT decided to slap on that label onto NXT for the next 2 weeks to counteract Fyter Fest. Fyter Fest. Fyter Fest is the other one.
It's so weird that this is a pay-per-view that is a reference to a failed concert. Like, how do they keep, you're talking about the Great American Bash, how do they keep Fyter Fest and like explain Fyter Fest hypothetically 2 decades from now?
I don't know.
Oh, you see, once kids, there was this concert that didn't happen, and it was a total debacle, and they named the pay-per-view after it. I don't know. It seems like a tough sell.
It's just tradition at this point. You don't question it, Chris. So that's how they're going
There's
to
a
do
deeper
it.
message in there. I'll leave it for the listeners.
You know, that's how they're going to do it from now on. Sorry, I can't minimize my Zoom screen here. I'm looking for the numbers here on the Wednesday night wars, so to speak, because I got
Oh,
a
so
bit
you're
of
gonna blame Zoom?
yeah,
Of
well,
course.
as you can-
All right.
okay,
Yeah.
here it is. No,
Well,
I got it.
someone's got to stand up for Zoom on
Okay,
this show.
NXT 792,000, AEW 748,000. AEW was 6th in the ratings because of the demographic numbers, which Chris Jericho was very quick to point out.
Is he working or is that like serious? Because if he's serious, it's sad. I mean, even if it's a work, it's kind of weird. But like if he's not working and it's mostly serious, it feels desperate. These are downward arcing numbers.
Yes, and 900,000 for the Io Shirai Sasha Banks match, which is great. I think
Yeah, that is good. No, and it's popping the number, which is
Mhm.
even more impressive here. Like they've been having an issue getting people to pop a number, and like that match drew eyes.
And I wrote I vague tweeted a bit where I basically said people aren't seeing the forest from the trees, and I didn't have a fully fleshed out thought, but I'm just for me looking at eyeball, you're arguing 6th place versus 10th place midweek between a new company that's, I guess, trying to start up, but has lost half its audience over 8 months, versus the WWE show that he doesn't care about insofar as how are they doing up against AEW. You have Raw and SmackDown, which are both hitting lows still. I think they were both around 1.77 million. Raw was like the 3rd lowest ever, and SmackDown wasn't terribly impressive. And to me, it's like you're trying to make fetch happen. You're trying to make a horse race out of watching 2 horses in the middle of the pack when you're getting beaten by things like MTV's The Challenge and Guys Grocery Games. And it was coming off a bit as Cornette-esque, and I didn't want to come off that way. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, this is a problem with AEW right now, is that they are looking at the numbers at the horse race, and they just want to beat NXT. You saw that in MJF's promo opening up the show where he's like, we're in a ratings war.
Yeah, that's right. They mentioned that a couple of times. And like then you have Taz's promo later on in the show where Taz is directly positioning the company to WWE saying, you know, we take things seriously unlike the other guys. And if you want to do that, so be it. But you're totally right. I think the framing of they're not seeing the forest for the trees. They're like, well, we're neck and neck with NXT. It's like, yeah, but both of you guys combined still don't match Raw, which is not doing great numbers either. And that's the other part of the bigger part of the forest here is like, you're not that big of a tree and the forest keeps getting smaller. So one, AEW as a brand has not grown from launch. If anything, the numbers have gone, if anything, they have gone the other way. They're not building forward momentum. They're trying to stop the bleeding. And it seems like they have. It seems like, you know, they're hanging out like 700,000, and that's okay-ish. But for the fact that there was this anticipation that both of these brands were going to be churning up interest that would be over 1 million people per show. Like if we go back to where predictions were in 2019 when this all started, hope sprung eternal that, you know, we'd be trying to figure out who was breaking 1 million on a weekly basis. And now it seems like a distant memory.
Yeah, and you know, if they're doing Raw or SmackDown numbers, sure, do that victory lap. I'm fine with that, even if you're not winning the night. But
if AEW is doing Raw or SmackDown numbers, they should be peacocking around. Certainly. I think, you know, at that point that you really start kind of crowing that we're going to take down. You start acting like Cameron Grimes, like we're going to take down that Vince McMahon if you're pulling Raw or SmackDown numbers. But the issue is that they're not.
Do you want to know what won the night overall across all platforms?
Oh, you're going to depress me. What is it?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's wrestling related.
Oh.
Game On with star Keegan-Michael Key, Rob Gronkowski, and Becky Lynch was on that show. 2.1 million viewers. So, you know, wrestling won the night. It just wasn't any of the wrestling in there. And I don't know. I'm looking at it from a TV executive point of view. And I don't know if I brought this up early in the Rob run, but I had They interviewed me for the head of Amazon Television, Chris. I had no business going in there. I basically had lied on my resume a little bit in terms of my development experience and stuff like that. But they, look at what Amazon wants now. They wanted a more snobby HBO, and thank God I wasn't put in charge, because I would have never greenlit half those shows that have been on Amazon Prime. But they seem to work for them. But at the same time, I'm like, you're a TV exec, and AEW, which got its highest rating for TNT in 5 years on opening night, and then has since lost 50% of the audience despite getting a 3-year contract. You saw I don't know if you saw what Fox did this week. Fox got rid of its golf, the next 3 years of its golf, and said, we're no longer in the golf business. I think it was CBS they gave it off to. CBS can have this. I would not be shocked if some of these, look, for all you can say about AEW, they need to grow, they need time, they're new. That's not the TV business, kids.
They may not have time. Yeah, I think that's precisely right.
I had a friend who was set to play a sidekick on a very hyped up show at the upfronts for networks. Had a big star on the head, had all the advertising in the world on the network into it. One episode, they pulled it. And that was it. And it's like, if you get time to grow an audience, you're lucky. Live TV costs a lot more money than taped television programming. And they're not giving it to them to find themselves. They're giving it to them to get some ratings for this network. And yeah, 6 is good. But for the cost benefit, I don't know. I don't know if like a rerun of Fast and Furious Part 32 might do the same numbers in that same time slot.
Yeah, or like a first run of a semi-popular series.
Especially with sports being either foolishly coming back or not coming back at all, depending on who you talk to. All these networks are losing a lot of money because they can't go into production right now, and they're going to start to look to cut costs. And I think both WWE and AEW just should be putting out what programming they can, and especially the talent from AEW should just kind of try and stay under the radar about crowing about things if they're not winning the night in a world where they're the only fresh programming out there, really.
I gotta tell you, I'm still surprised. I'm not surprised with WWE because of the CEO's sort of predilections towards things. More on them in just a moment too, because I want to talk about the mass. Remind me. But with AEW, I'm very surprised, considering how many TNA veterans there are, that they didn't just move into a pre-tape mode. I think that they could have saved themselves a lot of drama throughout this whole cycle if they had actually just gotten into a habit of pre-taping 3 to 4 weeks of television and then coming back for, their Fyter Fest live event equivalents or whatever. They're not quite pay-per-views.
They're kind of doing that. They are. AEW or WWE?
AEW.
Both are kind of taping in advance.
Okay, yeah. I think that's wise. The less time that you're actually on site, I think the better.
A little bit of news going into this week. Monday night might be Kairi Sane's last appearance with the company. It looks like she's heading back to Japan. Talks are she was going to be a goodwill ambassador, but she has gotten married. She's been in a long-distance relationship. WWE, to me, views her as injury-prone, so I don't think they're that worried about her going away. I hate getting in these discussions of, is she the biggest talent that they've ever blown? Because there's a litany of people out there that could go under there.
Oh man,
with, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, Booker T. I mean, you want to name it. Every generation, there's a generational talent that they've misused.
I don't know if she will be on. They originally had advertising where she'd be seconding Asuka versus in the match against Bayley with Sasha Banks at ringside.
I think they've written around that though with the Io Shirai
right now, so it might be a surprise. So who knows?
Yeah.
Other than that, the only other news is COVID related with the executive vice president saying they're still trying to get live shows up and running. They're still handling this poorly. Chris, this would be where you can go into your masks.
Yes. So it dawned on me this week when I was watching SmackDown that WWE, this company that is obsessed with merchandising, and you could say even more than being a wrestling or sports entertainment company, WWE is a merchandising company, right? They sell t-shirts, they're selling action figures, they're getting you to buy those big custom belts for $300, $400, $500. I don't even know how much they're worth. Is that right? Is that somewhere in the ballpark?
Spaceballs, the breakfast cereal.
Yeah, right. So right now we have a global pandemic. You might say it's around the world, as it were.
That would be a global. That would be a global pandemic, Chris.
That would be a global pandemic. And you know what's useful during a global pandemic? Face masks. And WWE, being a merchandising company, could have been putting all of their wrestlers' logos onto masks and selling them and probably making a pretty profit early on. But instead, they kind of dragged their feet on this. But think about it. Like, dude, sell John Cena masks. And I saw one of those in the crowd. I was just like, oh my God, this company, because they were so stubborn on this, missed the mark on this. And now I'm also seeing AEW is going to flank them on using Fyter Fest or the second night of Fyter Fest here as like a COVID-19 tribute show, or like not tribute show to COVID-19, but you know what I mean? Like a benefit.
I hope it's not for the World Health Organization again.
Yeah, I don't. Did they do that the last time?
Jericho had some shirts, or AEW had some shirts that first week that's like all profits go to the World Health Organization.
Oh, yeah. Guys, whenever you're going to donate to charities, this is not just true at WHO, but like really any charity, do your research. It applies to like Susan G. Komen for the Cure as well.
But the wrestling this week wasn't half bad. It was just, your usual main roster does some perplexing things from time to time. Going through Raw real quick, you're building up Andrade and Angel Garza as your number one contenders to your tag champs, only to feed them to then the Big Show, who doesn't need people to be fed to.
And certainly not Andrade and Angel, who have been really stuck in second gear for the better part of 6 to 8 weeks now.
Yeah, the bickering thing is it's
tired. It's not interesting. I don't care who becomes the baby face out of this. I'm not like jonesing for a big Andrade push. They've gone so many different directions with Angel Garza at this point that you don't know what they're actually going to commit to. And
all you know is that Humberto Carrillo is going to be sent out there to lose.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
he's sort of the Chavo of them.
You had MVP getting basically a clean win, even though they tried not to put it over as clean because of the distraction over your U.S. champ, Apollo Crews. Bobby Lashley gets a big win over Ricochet. Your mid-card is dead.
I mean, I'm just like looking through the card here and seeing, is there any character on their show that I really am invested in their story at all? And it's like, no, like I don't really care what Apollo Crews does. I think it's nice that he finally got a push.
There are two characters I am invested in, and that is Sasha 3 shows and Bailey Dose straps.
That's sort of cheating.
Continue to be awesome.
Yeah, no, they're great. But like even Drew McIntyre, he's okay sometimes, and then sometimes he's kind of annoying.
This story with him and Dolph,
right?
It's nowhere. It's reliving an angle that nobody liked at the time,
and they kind of failed to capitalize on at the time with the Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Ziggler angle. And so going back to that now, this is also a company that does not reward you for paying attention to history. So when you make these calls back to a year ago, one, sometimes the roster's turned over so much you don't want to necessarily spotlight certain things. But two, people don't remember these things because you get told to forget them, or you never get reminded of them again for the entire year.
Or they're irrelevant. Or there's no, really, the problem here is there's no emotion behind this at all. It's just, hey, remember that thing? Yeah, okay, let's do a match.
Yeah, and they blew off that thing really quickly, too.
Yeah, to get to Drew's star power. And it just, like I liked the staging of the contract signing, and I kind of wanted to follow up, like, okay, who's the moron who put both contract signings at once? Starting in the middle of the scene with the women fighting, as opposed to just waiting around. But then you have them sitting around doing nothing while we have these monologues. And look, as much as I like the callback of the Sasha stamp, which is 4 years. It's a 4-year callback, Chris, from the Becky Lynch match in NXT. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze on that. And they should be looking at these Io Sasha numbers and going, okay, why did people turn out in droves to watch that? It wasn't something we had seen before. It was 2 acts that people cared about. It was 2 acts that are quality acts. It was something people were looking forward to. Ergo, they turned out in droves to watch it. And they're missing on all these builds in favor of just, here's your gruel. Here's your Golden Corral buffet of mediocre quality, but you're going to get a lot of it. Here, eat it.
Yeah, I really don't want to slag on the performers on these shows.
Right.
The War Machine are dope. They're just not dope as the Viking Raiders. Andrade and Angel Garza are both cool. Zelina Vega is cool. But they're not being used in a remotely interesting way. Akira Tozawa is awesome, being used horribly on this show. Seth Rollins has been much better than he's currently been. We love Buddy Murphy, but he's not killing it right now in this Seth Rollins prophet gimmick or whatever. Aleister Black, very cool. Carrillo, you and I like him a lot. We've been worried that he was going to end up doing what he's doing. Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, like the actual talent on this show is good, pretty much from top to bottom. And even the usage of the Big Show, the amount they're using him and where they've got him in the cards, the right usage of him. It's just the way this show's being written right now and like the actual character development around these performers is just boring.
Chris, the Brain Buster has been persona non grata for a while in WWE. And if you were going to pick a talent to allow to do a spinning Brain Buster as a finisher, where is Peyton Royce on your scorecard on that?
That was a surprise. I mean,
that got me
there's a
out
lot
of
of
my
trust.
seat and
Yeah,
going,
no.
what the F was that? I could not believe that. Is she going to be Goldberg? Is she the new monster heel in the division? It was an awesome move, but I'm just like, okay. Bobby Lashley, I could see doing a spinning Brain Buster. Peyton Royce, good luck finding talent that can take that a lot.
Yeah, that was the thing I was thinking about. And I guess you have to push her as a heel with that kind of move, because you're not going to get Nia Jax up like that. So I mean, even like Natty's fairly just
Power lifter. She's a
power lifter. Yeah, like that. I mean, there's just a number of people I think Peyton's going to have a hard time getting up, and getting that move to look right.
It's also interesting because of the number of women that are on the shelf, kind of languishing in main event world, where Shayna Baszler and EST Bianca Belair.
Bianca, yeah,
are just it's like it's weird because it's like we have the Kairi Sane thing was the same thing. It's like we have a 1 week idea, and then we just get bored with it, and then we're done with it. And that's where Shayna and Bianca are right now.
Oh yeah, they got Bianca on main event this week. I was seeing,
She's been on like the last 3 weeks. She's
Yikes!
It's like that weird Lana Natty feud that, or was it Lana Natty or Lana and Liv? I can't remember, but
I think it was Lana and Liv.
Okay.
Before they made Lana kind of more of an NPC.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, the matches were fine. It was just some questionable booking on Raw. Anything else on Raw that caught your fancy?
No, there's nothing that caught my fancy. Yeah, I just think it's a talented roster being used miserably right now. And there is some interesting wrestling. It's kind of like that on SmackDown too. If you want to move over to SmackDown.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just wanted to add one thing. I think Raw post Heyman, it moves faster. I wouldn't say it's better, but it's a different. They're doing a lot more story stuff, which they're not exactly great at because you have to have strong characters to have a strong story. But it moves quicker than, say, a 35-minute match between Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird to have the low stakes, long form matches. And I think that was a mistake in the Heyman era, and
Well,
they've gotten away from that to an extent.
they have, but I understand the thinking there. The thinking there is what people want is wrestling, and I think both AEW and WWE for this era, in terms of the Heyman Raw era, I still think promos.
So I
is the way
think
to
they're
go,
right.
you know?
I think they're right, but the execution's wrong. When people want wrestling, especially like on a weekly television show, what they want is a series of quality 12-minute matches.
I think wrestling fans want wrestling. I think normal people
Yeah.
want feuds. They want heat. They want
Right.
angles,
And so you have like rather than 35 minutes with one feud that's like a mid-card feud, you have like a 12 to 15-minute match with little characterization, skitness going on at the back end of the match here. Kind of a schmozzy, dusty sort of finish at the end to keep the story advancing along here. Maybe a promo to lead into it, and then they have a quick match that doesn't resolve so that we build into something next week. Like, a little bit more bing bang boom, but like stories told in the ring rather than we're just going to have a really long wrestling match. Because the other problem is that WWE doesn't kind of allow the wrestlers to change gears too much. So everyone has sort of a similar type of match.
Bro, Matt Riddle's back on SmackDown, bro.
Bro, he's going to say bro a lot, bro. I like the Frostbite story.
I nailed this, Chris. I think I nailed this when I said Vince will see him and save Jeff Spicoli from
Yeah,
Fast
absolutely.
Times.
And like even commentary was sort of ribbing the Fast Times at Ridgemont High references, saying 1980 wants their movie back. My guitar is 40 years old, Jeff. Just to put that into context, in 10 years it'll be a vintage instrument. So we're coming up on a vintage joke there with Fast Time at Ridgemont High. I liked the Frostbite stuff. I thought the Frostbite stuff did a good job characterizing him and like giving him, it explains why he's laid back, or like he knows how to like contextualize stuff. He doesn't sweat the small stuff, but he's also like, I don't know, the whole Frostbite thing sort of puts into mind that there is risk. And it also explains like why stepping on his toes doesn't work as well, like for some people too.
Did you need that? Did you? Did you need that bit of information to connect the dots there on the feet?
I mean,
I find it funny, but I don't know why.
I mean, I didn't need it, but we're always talking about like sort of doing a show not tell sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like this was a subtle way of getting over his mindset without clobbering you over the head of like, I'm laid back because horrible things have happened to me. Like rather than him like hitting you over the head with the message, which he did like a little bit there. Like it's a little more nuanced.
Okay.
So I liked it. I mean, I can get how other people like. Look, it's a long story about him having like frostbite, and he sounds high out of his mind as he's telling it, and he opens it up with, "This is gonna be a really long story, bro."
Light up, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if they go to commercial in the middle of the story, they come back and he's still
telling it. Yeah. Like,
oh man, I liked the Gulak AJ Styles match.
oh yeah, I thought that was great. The Zoom Daniel Bryan stuff was ridiculous, but
It was.
the actual match was good. I mean, babyface Drew Gulak is a lot of fun, and AJ AJ's fun as a heel. I think that he has a good intensity as a heel, and in this second part of his career, he's really gotten good at the heel pacing. And no, I just thought this was a fun match. I really did.
Yeah, there's some odd moments of motivation in these feuds on this SmackDown, because I thought Shinsuke and Kofi was
Also
pretty good as
good.
well.
Yeah. No. So, like, when I was describing this show to you before we got on the air, I thought it was basically a really good show sandwiched on either side with like inanity and WWE crap. Like, so like the Riddle thing gets interrupted by King Corbin, who once he says bow down to the king, I can't help but think, like, is this partially a rib on Triple H?
I don't know, but let's get the horribleness out of the way before we get to the greatness. Yeah, Corbin, I understand why they like his heat, but between that and the toast at the end, where poor bartender is just the hired help. To me, Jeff Hardy acted like a heel in that segment.
I mean, the whole thing was weird. Like, when the bartender's shoving the alcohol in his
He's
face.
an enabler. They got an enabling bartender.
Yeah, I mean, so like that's how they're trying to turn him from like neutral to heel, but they don't really nail it. And I was kind of expecting the bartender to try to attack him.
Yeah, I thought he was a worker. I thought he was going to go
Yeah,
after him or
yeah.
something.
I think he is a worker, but yeah, I figured he was gonna go after Hardy or whatever, and Hardy was gonna, do something, and I don't know, like dump more booze on him or something. Like, the whole thing was very weird. And also, like, Jeff Hardy just does a really bad job faking emotions. He's
Yeah,
really, really bad at it.
yeah. It's also just unrealistic. Hey, I'm an addict. I'm going to go into this ring full of booze just to placate this guy who's trolling me.
How dare you, Sheamus? How dare you mock my addiction?
Can you do the rest of the show like that, please? Just.
But you know what?
Tommy was so level acting from the room.
He is Jeff Hardy would actually be amazing in a Tommy Wiseau flick.
I'm in for this. I make it
happen. Yeah, no. Get Wiseau to come in and direct one of these WWE movie matches and have Hardy in it, and like let Wiseau write a lot of dialogue for Hardy. I'm here for this. 5 stars.
Facing my inner demon, Sheamus.
I love you so much, Lisa. The candles, the music, this red dress. What are you doing here?
But all of this takes a back seat to the greatness of the golden role models. That's not their name. The fantastic video package by Sasha and Bayley. The trolling of the Undertaker, also fantastic. This thing is blowing it out of the water in so many ways. My only one caveat that I'm a little worried about is it looks like they're healing Sasha up. And I don't know if that's the way to go on this, unless they're just going to keep them both heels who sometimes make up and continue to fight each other, because she was very possessive about the belt at the end in that moment where she has it around her waist.
Yes, yeah, right, sure.
And during the video, she has that moment where I can't think of anybody that's better than Bayley, and just kind of gives a real quick look into the camera like, can you believe I'm saying that?
Yeah, it's weird because I liked it more when they were going the other way, where they were going to make Bayley the bigger heel and Sasha kind of the baby face. But I could also, I mean, this is
they can
the
back
problem.
off of it this week, because
right, they can really back off of it because they turn the car around whenever they want. So
yeah, because this was the week where Sasha put Bayley into a match that she didn't want. And so basically it just might go higher with Bayley doing something to Sasha.
Yeah. We could be in a little bit of a circle of one-upsmanship, and the question is who's turning on who first.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Which
thinking.
might be which is the wrong way to play this too, because you want to have someone clearly coming off as the sympathetic one.
Well, we still have time. I mean, this might be a long thing as opposed to happening in the next week, but they can always just lose the tag titles Wednesday and then, or lose the title Monday and then lose the titles Wednesday. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do here, but I'm along for the ride. I liked the show. There's a weird thing where I remember Peter Rosenberg got in trouble on Bring It to the Table for calling Undertaker Taker. And it's always you refer to the character as Undertaker, but backstage you can call him Taker. You know, that kind of weird WWE language thing where, you know, they're kind of making fun of it, but they're not at the same time. And Sasha rolling the eyes in the back of her head and stuff like that. I loved this, and it's a fitting it's a fitting way to get into the Great American Bash for Wednesday on NXT.
Oh, real quickly, I wanted to mention that I thought that John Morrison and Matt Riddle had a really good match on SmackDown here.
It was good.
I thought Morrison was really good.
There was that one weird segment where Morrison's basically doing, and he picks him up and then gets him in like a razor's edge, but he should have probably just kind of bellied. He did a lot of complicated things that could have been a little bit simpler, I think. But overall, I agree with your point. I think he was
showboating a little bit, but like, I don't know. I think it was a good reminder that Morrison's like very, very skilled in the ring.
Yeah, I would not mind seeing a 15-minute match between these two on a
yeah, sure. Yeah,
some stakes later down the road.
Yeah, and ditto with the Nakamura Kofi Kingston match. I thought that was like, granted, it's a low bar with Shinsuke Nakamura, but I thought that was one of Nakamura's better matches in the last couple of years.
I agree. I thought he looked motivated out there. He wasn't half-assing it like some people accuse him of. I really liked this Shinsuke. They reminded us that he was a Rumble winner, which means someone has an interest in him backstage, because they used to bury that fact quite a bit.
That's good. I think that, you know, the issue with him has just been misusage. I mean, ditto with Cesaro, but I mean, running theme here.
Do we want to do AEW or the Bash first?
Well, let's do the AEW. Let's switch it up here.
I am done with Chris Jericho on commentary.
Oh, come on, Jeff Hawkins. Don't say that. You idiot.
There aren't levels to it either. That's the problem.
No, there's no depth. Like, sometimes he doesn't have like a joke even. He's just like,
I'm just yelling things because I'm Rick Hanlon.
Yeah. It's like he's like Anchorman sort of antics going on there.
Yeah, it's Anchorman combined with Jesse Ventura up to a 10. Kind of thing.
Jesse Ventura was working with more content though on a regular basis. It's like at least Ventura knew where he wanted to go when he started the sentence. I feel like sometimes
people stupid the whole time. That's you're stupid, Excalibur. Stupid Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, Schiavone. Yeah. Oh, that Orange Cassidy. I don't like that Orange Cassidy. I look at him and I don't like him.
That's Pineapple Pete. I don't like him either.
I hate that guy.
Yeah,
there's no depth.
There's no depth.
There's no depth at all. Like, and we're not even moving Jericho to a new point characterization wise. And the stuff that we liked when Jericho was on commentary, he was way more subdued than this. This character sucks. Like,
yeah, he was playing kind of Champion Flair on commentary for a while.
Yeah. A little hammy. And we know that one of the problems with Jericho is that left to his impulses without any editing, he tends to default towards hamminess. But this was grating.
This was honey baked ham right here. This was like glazed and dressed up for your Christmas dinner ham. This wasn't just any normal ham. This was gourmet ham.
But it's saccharine. I think honey baked nails it.
Jurassic Express beating MJF and Wardlow. Already kind of went over MJF's promo. Match itself, I didn't think was too bad. I enjoy the chemistry between the Jurassic Express and MJF and Wardlow. And Wardlow has continued to improve week after week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there's interest for Luchasaurus and Wardlow as big guys who still haven't kind of hit their stride either, and MJF is always good at getting enough heat on this. The Jurassic Express are fine. I think that they need to kind of like there needs to be more to what they're doing with them. I think they've been kind of stuck in a rut here for a little bit.
Pink and plaid, though, Chris.
What about
Not a
Pink
good
and Plaid?
choice. Not a good choice.
Oh, for MJF?
That was hideous. That was heel heat extraordinaire right there.
Oh yeah, sure.
That thing. Yeah. Kairi Shida beating Penelope Ford. I know Uncle Dave liked this a lot more than I did. I especially found the Sabian cheat spot a little contrived.
Yeah, I know. I thought the Sabian cheat spot was this was a fine match. This was not it didn't blow me away. The most I can really say about it is like Penelope Ford probably has the best theme song of anyone in the AEW company. Like I think her song kind of fits her. It's one of the stronger theme songs paired to a person for a while. Other than like Cody Rhodes' theme song's pretty good. Like the lyrics like apply to like his life and everything. But like in this company, I think Penelope Ford kind of she's got a good theme song. It's catchy.
I like Penelope Ford as a wrestler. I just think they rely too much on timing spots with her, and you've seen it.
Sure.
You've seen it go poorly in like that 4-way. I remember with Chris Statlander and a couple others where, she had to do something and she kind of she didn't get caught the correct way. And then this happened, that happens. I'd like to see a little bit more, for lack of a better term,
You want kind of the
grounded offense from
grounded
her.
offense. Yep. Yeah. No. I think she needs to be, more drop kicks on the ground. Sit the opponent up, run from a corner, hit them with the drop kick.
And then do the big athletic spots, and make them a special treat as opposed to just an ordinary part of the arsenal.
Yeah, or use athletics to kind of enhance the ground game rather than try to do aerials to a standing opponent. I'm with you on that. I think like I like Sheeta. I don't know. This match was good. It was good. I think one of the big problems this is not unique to this match or any specific brand even, but just too many near falls towards the end of a match. I think like rather than having like lots of near falls, you need to have like the opponent falling out of the ring and stuff where they can't make the cover. Because when you have big move near fall, bigger move near fall, even bigger move near fall, especially when they're in rapid succession, the sting gets taken off from it. You don't get that escalatory effect.
And really, this has been a staple since not Benoit, but Malenko and Guerrero in ECW, where you just do those spot, the roll spot, back spot, bridge up spot. I just, that, if I could get rid of that, if I could get rid of the O face after a close pin,
sure,
every women's match now has to have. And they did it like 4 times in that 4-way that we'll get to in NXT. Those would be the things I'd get rid of. Cody and Jake Hager was okay. I wasn't offended by it. I don't understand the story they're telling with Arn and Cody, to be honest.
That Arn Anderson, he cheats. He's a cheating Arn Anderson.
Now do Jeff Hardy, quick. Come on, this was what got me in trouble.
Comes out and he does not have honor. Yeah. I feel like slowly we're turning Cody heel, but then like the Jake Hager, like the finish to this match, and then Hager losing his stuff on the referee sort of took away from everything else that was going on in the match. One of the problems with the AEW stuff or AEW style matches is they try to have like 2 or 3 narrative beats per match. And I think, especially when it's like a big beat that you want to make sure you have emphasis on, there's really only room for like at most 2 narrative beats in any match. Something going on in the finish and maybe something going on during the match.
Yeah, and there's always a beat for the referee,
Yes.
which again, we went into this last week when we were talking about Aubrey a bit. I don't view their referees as being worthy of characterization necessarily, unless you're going to go with style. But this is their choice. They want everybody to be a part of the show. So we're doing the Little Rascals, I guess.
I would rather there be a style to each referee's count.
Yes.
And like that's part of the characterization. Like some are better at actually catching outside interference than others. Heels have a bias towards one referee more over than another. Like if you're gonna do that, I think that's kind of interesting. But the obligatory ref spot that leads to like some sort of distraction play thing, that becomes very distracting. It often becomes the one thing that people remember from the match.
Private Party beat the Inner Circle of Santana and Ortiz. I am of the opinion that Private Party is not ready for prime time. They have a Penelope Ford problem. They love to do their coordinated spots, and it takes a while to get there for me.
Yeah, I think there's that. I think that there's something about there's a team chemistry thing that they kind of lack. Like I don't know. I think part of it's the outfits too. The tiger print stuff has to go. Even
the comedy spot where they do the high pitched squeal when they get hit has to go.
Yes. There's just a lot of things that they need to tweak up, and even the high flying. Some of it's good. I think that it needs to be done more sparingly. And I think these two guys would really benefit from going and watching like old style Rock and Roll Express, and kind of pay attention. I'm not like they've never watched it before. I'm sure they have. But less is more, I think, is part of it too. There's just a hammy quality to the whole act right now. That
it's indie-rific. It's very
Yeah.
indie wrestling type of gimmick where you're trying to do a lot of moves and you don't need to.
And Santana and Ortiz
Wow.
suffer from that a little bit too.
A little bit, but man, they were big stars coming in, and they've kind of been cooled down a bit.
Yeah.
And I still think it's from making the Inner Circle a comedy thing.
Yeah, no, that's I'm not knocking their ring work. I'm knocking like the characters that they're playing. Like who's the one with the longer hair? Is it Ortiz?
The one that does the Pampero Furpo act? Yeah, that's
Yeah. Like it's just these guys have some these guys actually have some skills. You could tell. It's just like they're working like kind of, as you said, kind of comedy. And I don't really get it. But no, Private Party, they're not even really analogous to the Street Profits. The Street Profits are like a more polished version of Private Party.
I hate making that comparison because you're just gonna get blowback. Oh, you're comparing two teams of two African American.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
No, I feel you, but like I'm not talking like Montez Ford. Very much feels like a similar template to like what Private Party is throwing out there, though.
Okay.
Like he is the high flyer, and like the Street Profits, their big kind of signature thing is the high spots. But even the high spots that the Street Profits go for tend to be a little bit more coherently structured, like the big frog splash. And I think they tend to capture the bigness and the excitement more. Private Party, like when they do their high spots, a lot of them are like fairly demanding, but they don't feel big.
And they take a lot of setup too.
Really take a ton of setup. Right. So, I mean, like there's more than just like cosmetics that links like kind of the comparison here. I just think like part of it too is that the Private Party doesn't have like a power guy. I think, there's a little bit too much overlap between these two guys skill set wise.
And then Kenny Omega and Adam Page beat Best Friends. I thought that promo by Page and Omega was terrible.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, Page just going, well, we're friends, but we're not in the ring. And then Omega just saying, yeah, it's going to be the same thing as every time. I'm like, this was the most phoned in promo
Yeah, Paige also kind of teasing that my belts thing too. Well, like,
Yeah.
so we're already setting the table for that. And like Kenny, you want to feel sympathetic towards him theoretically, ultimately, when the breakup happens. Hold that thought, though, I guess, apparently after the match here. But or maybe it blends into this, but like he does stuff that makes you either think one, he's oblivious. So like when he's gonna get blindsided by this, like it's in part because he's so kind of in his own little world. And then after the match here, he gets handed a beer. Okay, you don't drink. I get it, Kenny. But if someone hands you a beer, you don't just like dump it out. I didn't get it, and commentary didn't really put over why did Kenny do that, and didn't really put over why is there a fissure between Adam Page and Kenny Omega. Like the whole thing was weird.
What do you think of the minivan?
The minivan is fine. It's the WWE style loser gets the big entrance sort of thing.
Yet another car in the AEW family.
So yeah, on that note, I mean, as you know, I'm pro all truck related entrances. Any other vehicle from a taxi cab to an ambulance to a minivan, I'm
To an
less
Uber.
in favor. Yeah, it needs to be a large truck, preferably. That's probably the best entrance in professional wrestling in 2020.
I liked it for what it was, but then afterwards I'm thinking and I'm like, man, it just makes them look like comedy guys as opposed to tag team title contenders. So old school
Yeah, for
Hawkins
sure.
is fighting with it a little bit. I don't mind it, but
I mean, this is the problem though with the best friends gimmick is the whole thing like feels very lower mid-cardy versus upper mid-cardy. So ever taking them seriously as championship material, championship contender guys, it's tough because they're paired with Orange Cassidy, who like we also like. And I mean, I thought the Orange Cassidy heat spot on here was good, and they're doing good things with him, but like the whole vibe that the best friends in Orange Cassidy give off is like three dudes who don't give an F, which is not what you expect out of your champions.
So night 2 will happen Wednesday. Chris Jericho taking on Orange Cassidy, Lance Archer.
Orange Cassidy, I hate that guy.
Lance Archer versus Joey Janela, Nyla Rose versus to be announced. Do we get Tessa? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Probably
Big Swole.
Who? Yeah. Who'd be a surprise? I don't know. Maybe Emma, the former Emma Tennille Dashwood.
That would be cool.
Colt Cabana and the Dark Order, Brody Lee and Stu Grayson taking on SoCal Uncensored. FTR and the Young Bucks taking on Butcher Blade and the Lucha Brothers. Incorrectly tweeted out this afternoon as Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. That was a little bit awkward. And then Omega and Page taking on Private Party. Depending on what main events, I know what main events the Great American Bash. That'll be interesting to see who clicks over during that main event tag match.
Yeah, it will be. I wouldn't be surprised if we get the belts off of Omega and Page here
To Private Party
as transitional champions to go to like FTR.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. Like after all we said, I'm not saying that Private Party's ready for a big run here, but I viewed the finish here to this match as FTR playing head games because they knew that Omega was going to dump out the beer.
Do you have the Great American Bash in front of you?
For next week?
No, for this week.
For this week, yes, I do.
Take me through, please.
I will be happy to. So the Great American Bash kicked off with a big first time ever singles match.
No, it was a 4-way.
I know. I was reading a different part of the copy. It's wrong. So Tegan Knox won a fatal 4-way elimination match over Dakota Kai, Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae to become number 1 contender. And this was like an elimination style match, which is different from the way WWE usually does it. So first, LeRae gets pinned by Yim, then Yim gets pinned by Kai, and then Kai gets pinned by Tegan Knox. And that's how the match ends.
Until it was Kai and Knox, this wasn't much of anything to me. There was a lot of miscommunication. There's that I'll watch Tegan and Dakota go on forever. I still think Dakota Kai or Tegan Knox's sell, where her eyes roll to the back of the head and she just limply falls down. She just dies every spot. But as number one contender, I think she's a worthy number one contender. I don't know if they're going to put the belt on her and move Io up to the main roster, but I'm interested to see the build.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the build as well. I think even like a face versus face thing could be, it's an interesting dynamic. It's kind of a fresh thing to do.
It's weird with Tegan because you have the coming back from injury story, but do you want her to lose that first time and have people lose all interest? That's my thing.
Yeah, I mean, if she loses the first time, I think the way you want her to lose is Dakota costs her the match.
The only problem with that is she and Dakota have been feuding forever already. It would be great if that had happened.
Early somewhere along the way in their feud. I don't see a good off ramp for it, but then I also don't see. Narratively, I don't see why Dakota Kai would just sort of sit back and let Tegan Knox win the belt either.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so. But I liked it. They're trying to do something with Mia Yim, I guess. Are they trying to turn her or something?
No, I just think they're gonna siphon her off to fight with Candice, who I think they're fighting next or on Wednesday as well.
Okay, haven't they already fought?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then we have Damian Priest, and he cut a promo on Cameron Grimes. What do we think about Damian Priest as a babyface?
Interesting. I mean, they're doing the lone wolf push with him. I like that he looked into the camera to do the promo. I don't know if the promo was very good. That's the thing.
Yeah,
in terms of
right.
Content.
Right. He has a good voice. They did a good job framing him as he talked, but I didn't think that he actually said a whole lot of anything.
Right. He'd be another guy where I'd want to hear him cut a natural promo to hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we get Timothy Thatcher defeating Oney Lorcan. I enjoyed this match.
I liked it. I'm not a big grapple F guy, but it was fine for what it was. The one bully beats the other bully type thing. I forgot where it was, but they posited that maybe Thatcher then brings in Danny Burch and beats him, and then it becomes like a 3-person stable to kind of go up against Imperium type of thing. But I still think Thatcher may be taking over Imperium sooner than later.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
If Walter doesn't want to come to the States.
That's true. But I like Thatcher, and they've certainly planted seeds for with Thatcher's rhetoric and stuff during the promos where he talks about the mat and everything. It makes sense that he would be a part of Imperium.
He's coming off as a badass, which is pretty
good.
I
think so.
Because I didn't have a lot of hope for Thatcher coming in because he doesn't have the excitement that WWE generally looks for.
No, there's a lot of minuses on if I was actually gonna write them down here, things that seem to be working against Tim Thatcher, and he's exuding small tough guy energy, and it's good. And Rhea Ripley defeated Aaliyah and Robert Stone. I got strong Mark Marrow vibes from Robert Stone.
Robert Stone is the exact body type you don't want in this kind of match. If you ever have men facing women in the history in the 80s, if you want to go back to the territories, Jim Cornette and Paul Heyman facing women,
perfect.
Fine. Jack dudes like Robert Stone, not so fine. I'm not an intergender wrestling fan, as many of you know, but that's just purely me. But even with that caveat, this thing was dumb comedy. It made Rhea Ripley look stupid. The whole thumb to the nose, nanny boo-boo after winning type thing doesn't make her look tough. It makes her look goofy. I just don't see the point of this.
Yeah, no, I have nothing really to add. I think the Robert Stone character, they just they don't have any real vision for this guy. Yeah, it's done. Yeah, it's got to be done. Which is horrible because I feel bad for Robbie E here, but no, this is done. Dexter Lumis defeats Roderick Strong in a strap match. I like this. It's so weird to me that Dexter Lumis as a character is being presented as a babyface.
There's a lot that's weird about this.
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't go into look. I love Morrow, and hearing Morrow reference Jimmy Garvin and Wahoo McDaniel warmed my heart. It was a great feud, borderline racist at times, but it was a great feud. Actually, not even borderline racist, straight up racist. But there's a reason why a strap match is a stipulation, and nobody ever explained why they were doing it. And it's because Roderick Strong kept running away. And the point of the strap is to keep people from running away, and they never explained that. Now, as a strap match, wasn't too bad. The ending got a little convoluted with the submission spot and getting the strap wrapped around the correct way and all those other things. But overall, it wasn't a bad match. I wonder what's going to happen to Dexter Lumis if Dream is off television.
That is interesting. I think the Dexter Lumis push continues. I think
he's a guy you can feed to Cross.
He's a guy. Okay, so I think he's a guy who Adam Cole can get a big win over and make him feel confident enough that he could go up against Cross, and then you could have Cross to like demolish him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy you can build up to beat. That's pretty much what we both agree.
Yeah, no, but like you can't. I mean,
he's not going to hold the title.
Seriously entertain, Lumis as NXT champion,
unless it's a tag title where you're doing wacky comedy.
Sure, but like, no, he's not an NXT champion, even in his best case scenario. Then after that, we have the match next week between Keith Lee and Adam Cole.
Pretty good video package, I thought.
LeRae and Gargano are interrupted when LeRae starts fighting with Mia Yim. Swerve Scott shows up, so maybe we're getting a Swerve versus Johnny match here.
I think so.
Yeah, and then Santos Escobar, flanked by Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, also known as El Legado del Fantasma, cut a promo in the ring. Boy, was this promo awful. Like, this is a god-awful promo. Where essentially El Hijo del Fantasma was trying to explain, and only as a heel, that there's more to Lucha Libre than just jumping from a really high place and falling and like doing flips and stuff. Like that there's actually like a whole deeper style to Lucha Libre, but this was being done to heel heat to getting boos. And he said that Lucha Libre had...
I was hoping for a shot of like the Lucha House Party watching this going, wait, what?
Yeah, right. Wait, this guy has a point. And then he talks about how like Lucha Libre has been turned into a sideshow. And then they're going to rediscover the true roots of Lucha Libre, blah, 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 blah. And then Drake Maverick rushes to the ring, and we then pivot back into Hijo del Fantasma as like a drug dealer, like a super drug kingpin guy where you can't even touch him sort of type. To which I say he's going to need more henchmen. Like, he's essentially going to need the Lucha House Party if you're actually going to go with this whole, like, you can't touch me gimmick.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of thought of this other than, Fandango and Drake are probably going to take this loss.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Probably Fandango eats the pin here. I think Fandango and Breeze need to fully commit to a different look and a different entrance music if they're gonna, like they're already starting to change their look, but I think they need to have like a different like entrance music and vibe. They're still like, I don't know, like the Fandango music is like kind of completely non sequitur at this point.
Yeah, they're doing the weird okay, this week we're going to be astronauts. This week we're going to be, it's a very, very just going through various occupational type of
Reliving the
entrances.
90s WWE gimmicks of mid-card yesteryear.
Yeah, it's very weird.
And then we get to
I forgot to I actually watched 205 Live, which is only a half hour this week, which is very weird. But they had it was on there where they had Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza in a squash match. It's very interesting the way they're being presented.
How so?
Very much hired goons, but it's like you have Mendoza coming out with his robe and stuff, but you have Wild still coming out with like the backwards ball cap and gloves type thing. They don't really have a matching outfit for it. They're not exuding class per se. They're red shirts pretty much.
Weird. You would assume that, like, if you're gonna, because it felt like they made Mendoza and Wild even like get haircuts and stuff, so you'd assume that like there'd be a corresponding ring gear change.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. And then we get to our main event here, which is Io Shirai defeating Sasha Banks in a non-title match, which I thought was a little weird. It should have been a title match, in my opinion. Just to give it to it. Like, if anything, the one thing the WWE product's suffering from a little bit right now is the lack of stakes. So I don't know why you wouldn't have Sasha going down there and having a match against Io for the title. Or if you're going to make it non-title, then why not give Sasha the win?
Yeah, I liked the match. I didn't love it, but I really liked it a lot. I thought
I certainly didn't think it's better than Penelope Ford and Hikaru Shida.
I thought Uncle Dave was way off base saying that AEW's women's match was better, but here's what I really like. Number one, you recall the times where we could tell Sasha had the boo-boo face on, that she was going to lose. That's gone. She's having a blast doing all this.
Yeah, I don't think she cares about. Yeah, I don't think she cares about eating the L to Io Shirai here.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's more. It's not that it's even about the losses. It's that I think it's whether or not she views them as a valid and justifiable loss. And like, this is a situation that's a justifiable loss. I would have made it a title defense. I would have had her lose in a title match if you're gonna, build up Io Shirai more. And I bet you a lot of people left.
You ever win by the DQ when Asuka blows the mist in her face?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that to keep the heat rolling.
I know a lot of people were disappointed about that, but I understood why. I mean, they're basically setting up Monday, Wednesday, and Backlash's matches. So, I mean,
and they need to get away from Kairi Sane too. So, like, I think that's the other thing is that this move is serving multiple needs.
Mm-hmm. But for what it was a lot of fun. And
oh yeah, sure.
And I'm here for any combination of Asuka, Io, Sasha, and Bayley. And I'm gonna be rolling in mud like a pig watching that tag match, I bet. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, I know. I concur.
Yeah, and that'll be Wednesday. Pretty much any other thoughts on the wrestling this week?
No, that's all I got for the wrestling this week. Is there any stories or anything we missed?
Oh, Zicky Dice may or may not still be with NWA. I don't see NWA continuing. I gotta be honest. I think they have a lot of guys that are willing, but they've already lost, a few of their big powers. You have Thunder Rosa running her own promotion now, so
right, yeah. Thunder Rosa launches her own promotion, and that allows her to kind of like free herself of some of the issues that are going on with NWA as an organization, and she really was the core of that women's division there. Like Allison Kay wasn't lighting the world on fire; Thunder Rosa was the star. Yeah, I just think I think that this was a.
I think with all the problems and the fact that it's a money loser, I think Billy should shutter it. I hate to say that because I loved it. I loved it for what it was.
Yeah, or he just needs to relaunch it, and he should shutter it and then relaunch it again at some point. But trying to continue with this continuity in this universe, on Power It's not going to work. Like whenever they relaunch it, they're going to need to like relaunch it with just like a reset button kind of in hand. Yeah, I don't like losing just trying to write around all of these problems, like not having Ricky Starks and Zicky Dice, which was your television title thing. So then you do a tournament on that, but it'd almost be better just to have Nick Aldis come out the first week again and say, this is Power Season 2 and I'm here. And like, I don't think it hurts anything. I'll put it that way.
We shall see what happens. I'm Jeff Hawkins. You can follow me at Crap Game 13. You can follow Chris at Chris Novembrino. You can follow the show at Shake Them Ropes. I have a lot of shows on the Voices of Wrestling Network, including The Flagship, Open the Voice Gate, Omakase, 5-Star Quizzes, Music of the Mat.
5-Star Quiz.
Whatever your tastes are, you can find them. And Chris also does other podcasts of note. He will plug them at this time.
Yeah, my other show is called it's called Don't Worry About the Government. You can find us at DWATG, but also on iTunes, Stitcher, and now Spotify. So go and check that out. My other show, which is like, more archival at this point, it's the All in the Family podcast. But there's a lot of interesting episodes, some of which are topical. If you want to hear me talk on different topics and stuff, you can check that out at allinthefamilypodcast.com.
We'll
see you next week.